Hi, Mama. My name is Shannon. I am a certified yoga instructor. I also specialize in prenatal and kids yoga, as well as breathwork, meditation, sound healing, and Reiki. Today, we are going to go through yoga poses that are generally safe for the first trimester. These poses definitely felt really good in my body. And so I hope that they're able to give you some space and some comfort. But the most important thing that's going to be necessary for today's practice is going to be listening to your own body. So every day, especially during the first trimester when so much is changing with the body, every day is going to be a little bit different. So the poses and how they feel in your body is going to change. What you need, what your baby and body are telling you is going to change as well. So you can follow along to this video, but also take the liberty to change things, modify things, find more comfortable variations of poses as we move in today's practice. Also, props are your friend. So today for my practice, I have a blanket which can feel really nice and supportive underneath the knees. I'm also sitting on top of a bolster. Bolsters can also be really helpful for Shavasana and some of the poses that I'll be offering during Shavasana. And then I've also got two foam blocks with me as well. This can help to relieve pressure on the wrists and just create a little bit more space in the body. So we'll get started today taking a comfortable seat. You can sit up on something like I'm sitting on today. This just provides a little bit more cushion for the sits bones. It also helps to elongate through the spine, creating a little bit more space for you and baby. You can close your eyes. And if at any time during the practice you feel nauseous or just need to take a few moments to catch your breath or ground down or move at a different pace, you're more than welcome to take care of you and your baby. So just starting to settle in, taking the time for self-care during this moment is so important. And also just taking the time to connect to your body and baby. And you can place one hand on the heart, the other hand on your belly. And just tuning in to what's going on physically today. Are there areas that feel tight or tender? Are there areas that feel like they're softening, expanding? Are there areas maybe need a little more stretch or a little more love? Notice how your mind is doing today. What thoughts are arising? And can we be a little more gentle, a little more kind to ourselves during this time? And finally, connecting to your little one, and that this practice is for both of you. Add one more moment to settle in. And then you can gently open your eyes. We're going to start off today in a child's pose. So you can move your bolster off to the side. And I personally like to use a blanket underneath my knees. And then for your child's pose today, you can kind of play around with the distance of your knees. So wider knees will create a little bit more space for the belly. And then I also like to use blocks. So You can bring your forearms down on the blocks and just creating a little extra space. You can also take a version of puppy pose. So puppy pose will be kind of starting for a table and just allowing your hips to stay over your knees and opening up through the chest and shoulders. So that will be a little bit less pressure on the knees, a little more space for the belly. So just depending on how your body is feeling today, finding a version of this pose that feels good and supportive for you. Child's pose can help with the feeling of nausea if that's what you're experiencing today. But also just leaving enough space for your body, especially if it's feeling a little bloated or, you're just feeling things change a little bit. Good. One more inhale. As you exhale, slowly starting to come up. And then you can stay with the knees underneath your hips. Bring your palms or fists onto blocks. And we'll move through some cat-cows. Now, you may hear people say that back bending is not great during pregnancy, but I think it's still important to open up the chest. But when you open up, you can keep the belly relatively stable and really just bring the stretch into the chest. So as you inhale, pelvis stays stable, belly stays stable, open up through the shoulders and the heart. As you exhale, round, bring your head down. Good. And I really like to take some cat-cows, inhaling to open, exhaling to round. At the beginning of the day, these poses can feel nice. At the end of the day, also, I really like using blocks for this variation just because it creates a little bit more space. Good. You can move slowly here. And if the hips are feeling tight today, you can also start to add in some hip circles to your cat-cow. So still keeping the integrity of the spine, but also moving the hips in gentle circles can feel nice. And notice if there's anywhere else in your body you're holding on to tension. So maybe in the shoulders or the jaw. Use your breath here to try to let some of that go. Good. Switch directions with the hip circles. And then we're going to make our way into a downward facing dog. So your downward dog can either be with palms down on the mat, or you can have your palms down on blocks as you lift the hips. So the blocks will just, again, create a little more space, a little more elevation for the ground. It also provides a little extra cushion for the wrists, and you may feel a little bit more of a stretch down the backs of the legs. That is totally optional. You can also move the blocks off to the side if you don't feel like you need them today. Just taking a couple breaths, maybe bending and straightening each leg one at a time. Shaking the head gently, yes and no. Allowing your downward dog to feel good in your body. You can keep a little bend in the knees if that feels good. And then we'll start to move the right leg forward, so you can lift it up and back if you'd like. And starting to shift it forward, taking your time to get there. You can take multiple steps to get there. And then lowering your back knee down onto the mat. Now, And I have a blanket underneath my knees, just for a little bit of padding, so you can use that if you find it useful. And then inhale, reaching your arms up for Anjaneyasana, low lunge. I like to bring my hands down on my hips for a moment here and just play it around a little bit with the pelvis. Finding a somewhat neutral position so that I've got space in my low back and I feel the back hip flexor starting to stretch and open. Good. And then you can reach your arms back up. And of course, any other variation of a lunge that feels good for your body, you're welcome to explore that. Take an inhale. As you exhale, plant the palms down on the ground. Then we're going to shift our way into a warrior two position with the right leg in front. So you can straighten your back leg and then lift up. Now I'm going to pivot here just so I can see you. You can see me a little bit better, but my right leg is still in front. Good. Reach your arms to the front and to the back. Stabilize through your knee. And then thinking about being a really powerful, strong warrior. You can relax the face and find some ease, but reaching to the front and the back, creating some space for the belly, and strengthening through the low body and the hips. And a lot of motherhood is also, being much like a warrior. We have to find the steadiness, we have to find stability and strength, but we also have to find a sense of fluidity and ease. Take one more inhale here. As you exhale, pivot the right toes inward, turn the toes to face each other, and then sit into a little squat for goddess pose. Think about your knees coming open to the sides. You can have the toes facing outwards slightly. Then you can reach your arms to the sides. Good. So this is called goddess pose, another really amazing pose to feel into, both physically and symbolically, spiritually. Maybe you take a few pulses here. So getting the leg strength and the pelvis strength is going to be really important in this process. Breathing deep. One more inhale. As you exhale, straightening the legs and then pivoting into a downward facing dog. So turning the right toes back to face forward, planting your hands down carefully, stepping the right leg back and coming into downward facing dog. And we'll do everything on the other side. I'm going to pivot on my mat and use my handy blocks here for my dog. That's optional if you'd like. Use them. If not, you don't have to use them. Good, but getting the stretch through the back of the legs can be helpful here. Creating a little bit of space. Downward dog can also help with sciatica if you're experiencing it. And then we'll start to move the left leg forward, up and in between the hands. You can take multiple steps for it to get there. Drop your back knee down, and we'll start with low lunge again. Good. Your back toes here can be tucked or untucked, just depending on what feels most supportive for your body. And then again, playing around a little bit with the tilt of the pelvis. Noticing what feels strong, stable, and a little bit of a stretch for you. It might be a little different from what's going on the other side, and that's okay, just noticing. And then again, working on that stability and that ease. One more inhale. As you exhale, plant the palms, tuck the toes, and then rotate the back foot and make your way into warrior two on the second side. Good. So you want your front knee facing forward, gazing towards the front of the room, finding that balance between steadiness, strength, and softness. Also feeling a bit of a stretch and strengthening in the legs. Nice. Noticing how this side feels. One more inhale. As you exhale, pivoting back into goddess, we'll do our goddess squats with the pulses one more time. Good. Maybe this time changing up the hand position, making a little oval at the low belly. Think about this idea of being open, all the new possibilities and experiences that will be coming to you. And now start those pulses. Good. Deep breaths here. You are doing great. Thinking about the knees going outward. We'll be here for 3, for 2, and 1. Go ahead, straighten, pivot back towards the front. Plant your palms down, and then take a big step forward. Then you can use your blocks here. We're going to come up into Tadasana, mountain pose. So standing it up, good. Take a moment and feel your feet down on the ground. And then just a moment to connect to our body. Just like we started class, take one hand on the heart, the other hand on the belly. And breathe here. Taking a minute to let the heartbeat slow. Taking a minute to transition from being on the ground to full upright standing position. Taking a moment to connect. Good. And then we will start to make our way into a little bit of a balance. So we're going to start standing on the right leg. You can bring your hands to your heart. Then you're going to cross your leg, coming into a figure 4 position and flexing the foot. You can sit back in the hips here. So adding in a little bit of strength and balance work is going to be really important for you, especially as your body starts to change. You can also stand near a wall or use a chair for some support here. But we want to strengthen the low body. We want to strengthen the ankles. Good. Breathing for 3, for 2, and 1. Gently coming up. Shake it out. And then we'll do our figure 4 on the second side. So shifting the weight into the left leg. Right leg comes up. Right leg crosses. Flexing the foot. Hands coming to the heart. And then sitting your hips back. So not only are we working on stability here, but we're also getting a nice hip stretch. And this stretch in particular can be a good one to help with sciatica. Good. I recommend focusing on a spot on the ground, maybe about 4 feet in front of you, that's not moving. Something to really focus your attention on. Nice. Steady and ease. Maybe even smiling here for 3. Sitting back a little further for 2. And 1, gently coming up. Nice work. Now we're going to make our way onto the mat. And you can either sit on the mat itself, you can also sit on a blanket or on your bolster. So from a seated position, we're going to take a little spinal twist. Now, twists are another one that you might hear are not safe during pregnancy. And it's true that we don't want to go into a really, really deep, intense twist because ultimately we want to have enough space for you and baby. But if we concentrate the twist in the mid part of the spine and upper chest area, there will be plenty of space for you and baby in the belly. So we're just going to practice that today. Again, listen to your body, taking it as far as feels comfortable for you. So from easy pose, Sukhasana, take your left hand, bring it on the right knee, and then inhale, tall the spine. As you exhale, twisting open from the ribs, and then the hand can come back behind you for a little support. My navel is roughly facing forward. I'm really just feeling the twist in this mid area. And if the twist is not working for you today, you don't have to do it. You can just take a few breaths in your Sukhasana. You can even take some seated cat-cows or reach up and over to the side. So lots of other variations for you. Good, coming back to center, and then we'll do the other side. Placing the right hand on the left knee. Again, belly is facing forward. We're twisting from this mid area, extending through the spine, and taking a gentle twist. Now you can also take a block and you can place the block behind you, resting your hand on the block to create a little extra space. So if anything starts to feel constrictive or just does not feel good in your body, I definitely recommend coming out of it. But if this feels okay for you, then you can definitely explore some of very light twisting in your first trimester. Good. Coming back to center. Now we're going to make our way into a bridge pose. So you can move your blanket off to the side. Now, bridge pose is a supine pose, meaning that we're going to be on our back. And this is another position that you might have heard cannot be great for pregnant women. But during your first trimester, nothing will be constricted or there won't be any pressure on any of the areas that could harm the baby. That being said, if being on your back just is causing nausea for you or does not feel good, then of course, modify, take a different pose that feels right for you. You can always come back into a child's pose, a puppy pose if needed. So bringing the legs out in front, we're going to roll down to the mat and bring a block with us, making your way down as gently as possible. Bend your knees, plant your feet down, and then lift your hips up. Now, if you've got a block, the reason I said to bring a block with you is because you can place the block on your sacrum, in the low part right below your low back. It's like that bony triangular piece. You can stick your block there, and then you can use the block for a little support on any height. And then think about rolling the shoulders underneath for a gentle opener for the chest. And breathe. You can also do a bridge pose without the block if you'd like a more active variation. I recommend keeping the eyes closed here, gazing up towards the ceiling, and tuning into the breath. One more inhale. Long exhale. And you can lift the hips, remove the block if you're using one. And then we're going to come into perhaps one of the funnest poses, happy baby, lifting your legs up. You can either grab hold of the outsides of the shins or the outsides of your feet, just depending on how your body's feeling today, how much space that you need. So grabbing a little lower will give the hips a little bit more space. It won't be quite as intense of a stretch, but wherever feels right for you is where I want you to be. Good. Breathing here. I can't really help but imagining doing this pose with my own baby someday. Good. Just kind of tapping into your own childlike, fun, playful energy. One more inhale. As you exhale, releasing the legs. And we're going to set up for our final resting pose today. So we're going to I'm going to offer a couple different versions for our final resting pose. You're welcome to take a more traditional Shavasana or a side laying Shavasana if that feels good for your body. But for me today, I'm feeling something a little bit different. So I'm going to walk you through a few options that you can try. If they feel good for you, great. If not, take something that feels better. So the first pose that I'm going to show you is called Queen's Pose. And we're going to use our blocks. And you can kind of play around with the height of the blocks depending on if you want something that's a little more supportive, lower to the ground. You'll use 2 blocks here. I have my block on the lowest and the medium height. You can also do medium and highest height. And then I'm using a bolster to create a little slope. And then I'm going to lean my low back, my sacrum, right up against that as I lean my body against that slope. It's kind of like you have a little throne that your body is resting against. And then for me today, I'm feeling a little bound angle pose with the legs. So I've got my feet together and my knees opening to the sides. You can even roll up 2 blankets underneath the knees if that feels good. And then I'm letting my arms drape open with my palms face up. So this is a really great place to be for Shavasana if it feels good for you. Another option, if this isn't feeling good, is to come into Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. So again, this is going to be a supine laying pose. And in the first trimester, it's generally safe to practice this. But of course, listen to your body. And if something else feels better, take that. So in legs up the wall, I like to use a bolster right up against the wall as a little cushion, a little support. And then you can kind of walk yourself up so that one hip is touching the wall. And then here comes the fun part. You'll kind of start to lean back at a diagonal as you gently bring your legs up. But now your low back is going to be supported by the bolster. Your legs are going to be supported by the wall. And then you can either have your hands out to the sides for more of a shoulder opener, or you can even have one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly for a more grounding, connected posture. Whatever feels right for you. So finding your variation of Shavasana, settling in. Maybe closing the eyes. Letting the tension roll off your body. You can stay in your Shavasana for another 5 minutes if you'd like. When you're ready to come out of it, if you're in legs of the wall, you can slide your feet down the wall, rolling gently over to one side and pressing yourself up. Good. If you're in Queen's pose, gently rolling to one side. And then pressing yourself up away from the bolster. And finding your way to a comfortable seat, just like how we started practice today. Good. Taking a moment to notice after the practice how your body is feeling. So you can come back to this practice throughout your first 3 months of pregnancy and checking in with your body along the way and using this practice as an opportunity to reset and to really listen and honor the changes that are occurring and giving yourself the time and space to give back to what you need physically and mentally, and also what your baby needs as well. So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Shannon, and I'll see you again on the mat soon. I'd love to hear about your experience today. I'd love to hear how the poses felt for you, which poses felt most supportive, which poses allowed you to release. And if you're experiencing anything throughout these first 3 months, I would just love to hear from you and how I might be able to support you in this journey. So leave me a comment below or send me an email. I'd love to connect. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you again on the mat soon.